Hello everyone and welcome back to another Babbling Irons video, and today little bit of an opinion, little bit of what the hell is going on at West Ham, if you want to put it kind of nicely. There seems to be a bit of tension between the board and Steidten, Noble, Moyes, and the direction we're generally pulling in, and it's evident in our lack of transfer activity thus far. So today's topic is kind of focusing on Tim Steidten. He came in almost a month ago now, so is there now getting to a point where we're coming close to him saying, well, actually, this isn't what I expected. I might just leave. Are we flirting a little bit with Tim Steidten and what we actually brought him in for, and not in a good way?
It's probably not good flirting. No, it's probably a slight bit of the bad touch involved in this one. I think, let's start off with the fact that this is kind of all come about because of, I think it was 90 minutes put out that he may walk. I think they're talking about a hypothetical.
Yeah.
I think hypothetically he may be tempted to walk, but I don't think that would be right now. I think that'd be more, later in the year if things don't develop and then should get into the new season and so on. But you can imagine there is maybe a great level of frustration. I don't believe you can look at our targets, probably Borgers, that represent what Tim Steidten is. It's not to say that he doesn't buy domestically, because he does, and he's done that in Germany. And again, it's not to say that the players are overpriced or he doesn't pay big fees, because he has done relative to the fees and the budgets that are in Germany. He has paid big money, and Leverkusen were one of the biggest spenders in the Bundesliga. So it would be naive to suggest that he wouldn't buy domestically and he wouldn't buy players for big fees. It's just nonsensical to have that opinion. However, I think when you look at the players we're looking at, I think there will be a hesitancy from him as to them being his type of player, especially when we've seen, say, Sangari has been linked later on the list.
Yeah.
But when you look at the likes of Fofana kind of push forward, the fact that Borgers is there, Howard Bellis has come up, and then the later rumours are more around players that have probably played maybe 100 games plus, like the types of Trevor Chalobah, who's 2 years older. That's a defender that maybe we would look at over Bellis. However, even though he's probably 10, 15, 20 million more.
Yeah.
And then when you look at the likes of McTominay and so on, it doesn't come across as what Tim Steidten would do.
I think I think it's very evident that the players that Moyes has identified, he wants those players, and he probably wanted those before Steidten came in. The likes of Ward-Prowse, which it looks like we're going to try and push ahead for. Polina, obviously his top target, that definitely wouldn't have been a Steidten pick. Even the likes of Harry Maguire, and again, like you mentioned, Scott McTominay. So they're players Moyes wants for this season. We spoke about it on our live stream, saying Moyes only has 1 year left on his contract. He wants to try and be as safe as possible this year and try and get the Prem-proven aspect of his recruitment right, so we don't have any blips. Or maybe that's what he kind of associates last season with, that we maybe signed the likes of Agerd, Paqueta, Scamacca, and maybe he doesn't want that bedding in time. He doesn't want that kind of risk, and he wants to try and bring in players that have played in the league before. And to an extent, I kind of understand where Moyes is coming from, because he's at the end of the day, he has his own interests at mind, and he wants to save his job and he wants to keep his job. So there's kind of two ways of going about it. I think there needs to be a healthy balance. And at the moment, it looks like there isn't that 50-50 split. There isn't that compromise that there needs to be between Steidten and Moyes. And is that a big kind of concern for you early on, or do you think it could be something that could be resolved before the end of the window?
I think it is a big concern if you take the targets we're going for and targets we're actually making significant moves for. You would argue that at the moment, if we're talking about a battle of wheels, at the moment Moyes is winning that battle, or at least they are, if you want to take it another way, maybe indulging his targets first, to maybe make a point as to they are just simply not available within our budget.
It's too expensive.
And I can understand where Moyes' standpoint is, and I think we would all do it. As much as we probably will say, no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't be as, maybe in some ways, I'd say pig-headed on some of the kind of, but I think we all would. If you're concerned for your job, you're going to do what you think is going to protect your job, and that's what he's ultimately doing. He doesn't want players that he feels he maybe has to take more time with to settle into what he wants. And, whilst we don't personally rate those players in terms of signing for West Ham that we've talked about in the past, we've never actually said that they're terrible players or they're bad players. What we're trying to kind of come to the point of is that they're fantastic system players for the current manager.
Yeah.
However, is that system going to be beyond this year? And whilst I understand fans saying, well, McTominay works for us. He fits right in. James Ward-Prowse fits right in. It's like, yeah, they fit right in now. But what happens next season?
Mm-hmm.
Do they fit right in with the next manager? And if we're spending £40 million on a midfielder like McTominay, and another manager comes in and says, I don't fancy him as my starting midfielder, I need to now go and buy another midfielder for about 40 million quid. Now, all of a sudden, we've got a £40 million asset sitting on the bench whose value ultimately over the course of the season is going to depreciate by about 10, maybe 15 million pounds anyway.
Yeah.
So if you're signing McTominay for 25, 30, you can probably understand that if you're getting around about the same money out of Souček or a Souček sale.
Yeah.
Same with Ward-Prowse. They are players that have great level of experience and understanding of the league. However, do they only fit a model of West Ham now? And if that is the case, is that logical to buy a player that simply fits the system now, taking away the Declan Rice money and then limiting what we can then potentially earn in the next 1 to 2 years? Because we may have to sell them. And if we're set to buy them for 25, 30 million, are we going to recoup that money? And that's
the big question I would put to people that are maybe favouring Moyes' picks over the likes of Steidten is, Moyes has 1 year left on his contract. How realistic do you think it is that he's going to extend beyond that? And if you do, then fair enough. But personally, I really don't. I don't see it past that. And like you mentioned, if that then comes to a point where we're next summer where we have to rebuild from scratch again with a new manager, you then have to get rid of those players that aren't maybe favoured. And you look at some
players out of contract by the end of this year, by the way.
Yeah,
6 players.
Exactly. So there's going to be a lot to do.
So you even sell those players now and you're not going to get top dollar for them. So then you need to then go and buy reasonably and cheaply.
Mm-hmm.
However, we're spending, and I'm not going to say wasting, but if we are pushing £40 million out on the likes of 30-year-olds, 28, 29-year-olds, then is that sensible when you consider next year we're going to have 6 players potentially leaving who, if we don't sell them this year and they don't sign contracts, 6 players are gone. We have no money to bring in. We've spent all of the Declan Rice money. Mm-hmm. And those players also that we brought in, maybe we have to look to sell 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Are they going to also bring back money in which to then go and buy 6 new players? Or does that mean we have to go, right, we're going to have to sell the likes of Paqueta, or we're going to have to sell maybe a Gerd to fund the kind of bolstering of the squad, because we're going to lose 6 players and have no revenue in which to do it, because ultimately we don't have enough sellable assets. And if we're going to keep spending money on players that don't give us a sustainable return, we are shooting ourselves behind.
I think the first kind of compromise we've seen this transfer window is the Conor Gallagher move. I think that's probably one that's maybe Steidten is like, okay, we'll give this to Moyes because it kind of fits what he wants in a player. It fits the profile he wants to recruit, but it's also a younger talent and someone that could potentially exceed the value that we buy him for, or kind of keep it similar. It won't kind of depreciate as much, because if he performs well for us, we know how English Premier League talents are, just Premier League talents in general, their price is always higher.
About 30 million, 35 million for him, I think guaranteed, in all honesty. And same with Chalobah, like those ones, when you look at it and go, yeah, Moyes, 100%, if they're the players you're going for, I think the club would absolutely back it. So was Steidten. We may then go kind of balk a little at the asking prices. However, they're sensible deals. You can kind of go along with that. But when you're going above the age of 25, then you've got to start thinking as to how much potentially am I going to depreciate in this player? Because that's the point. Unless you're going to see them out to the end of their contract, you then have to go, well, do they, over the lifetime of their contract and that sell and the buying price, does that work out as acceptable? And if we're talking about 100 grand a week, I think that's like 20 odd million pounds or something you're investing just in wages.
Lots of money.
Yeah, and that's one of the points with Ward-Prowse, right? 100 grand a week, 25 million, maybe 30, maybe 35 million pounds they're going to want. Now, are we going to get that much value out of that deal? And is it going to be one that another manager wants? I'm not entirely sure.
I just think we need to be really, really careful with what we're doing with Steidten, because he's been brought in and we know the quality he has in recruiting players. We have to put some level of trust in him, otherwise he will walk. It might not be tomorrow, it might not be next week, but he will walk eventually if we don't give him that trust and there isn't that communication between the manager and Steidten and obviously the board as well. So I think for me, we need to be very careful. I think at this stage, we don't need to worry too much about him walking in this kind of summer transfer window. I think that would just be an absolute disaster and humiliation for the club if that was to happen. So I don't think Sullivan would want that. I don't think anyone would really want that in kind of the club. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this one. I think we need to find that compromise. I think Gallagher's the type of player that suits that compromise between the two parties. And I think over the next month or so, we'll probably see those types of players be linked a little bit more, just because I think we need to get the balance right. We can't sign Ward-Prowse, McTominay, Maguire, all of these players, and then neglect the younger talents as well, the ones we should be signing, which we've mentioned before. So yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comments about Tim Steidten so far and the kind of dilemma between the direction we're heading in. Do you think there's any danger that he does walk this summer, or do you think that there is no kind of probability of that happening and it might take a little bit longer for that to happen? But I think we're kind of edging towards the side of caution on it. I think we need to be very careful, because it could be that Tim Steidten does walk, and that would just be catastrophic to say the least. So yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Leave a like on the video as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and Mike, until next time,
come on, you Irons.